The following is a presentation of Playfly Sports Properties.
I'm proud of this football team. I believe in this football team, and we're in position to play our best football this season. What these people don't realize is that, we expect to win. Look at this dude next to you, man. There's guys next to you. Look at him. There's guys next to you. There's guys behind you. These guys, that guy is counting on you to do your job. He's counting on you to do your job, to the best of your ability. We need to play team football, okay? Put Michigan State first. Do everything you can, okay? Go ahead and get this done.
And that's the ball game. Michigan State. What a performance here tonight.
That's why I came as a state, man.
And the underdog. And Mel Tucker does it again, defeating a ranked team on the road.
Like I said before the game, I've never been more proud of a football team. I mean, this was a special group. Okay, and what we accomplished today, okay, was something that no one expected us to do but us. This is what Spartans are all about, guys. We never quit. Good job, go Green! Go
We just beat Illinois 23-15.
Yes, sir.
On the banks of the Red Sea, this food has no too long. This specialty is winning, as far as they can ball. Spartans are never beaten, all through the game they fight for the only colors, green and white. Go right to the line of blue, watch the boys keep going. Spartans are about to win, they're fighting with the ring. We're gonna win this game. Fight, Rocky, fight, victory for MSU.
Well. What we got here? It looked like a little victory celebration in there, boy. They didn't think they could do it, huh? They went down to Champaign. Everybody had them counted out, huh? Looked like Daniel Barker, that is, had a little one of these in the locker room for the celebration. If you looked a little closer, that was a nice job by Daniel Barker there. Just so you guys know, this is Sparta. I'm your host, Jason Strayhorn, along with my co-host, Otis Wiley and Jehuu Caulcrick.
Got to add the spirit fingers, Jehuu.
Gotta do it, man.
Get it. Get after it. Get after it.
You got the button up all the way, button up to the neck.
All
I'm
the way.
getting my East Coast people today, you know? That's how we go on the East Coast.
Gotta love it. Spartans win on the road against a top 15 opponent in the Fighting Illini, number one defense in the country, number one running back. Didn't matter. Michigan State goes on the road and beats them 23-15. What an impressive win by the Spartans, gentlemen.
Absolutely. I mean, it was great to hear on the radio leading up to, I listened on the radio for, I would say, half of the first quarter. And then I finally got to the tube and TV to watch it. But, you can tell based off of even the calls that you, Stray, and George, and then with Jehu's in the first quarter, segment when he comes on, you can tell just the energy was different, right? It was us against the world, regardless of what happened in the past. We got our guys. We're going to play football, and we're going to, win, and we're going to work on, what we did for this week, which I heard was the practice was electric. It almost looked like nothing happened. They're dancing. Somebody told me they was doing the Tootsie Roll in the middle of the practice. Everybody's dancing and vibes are great. And the guys that are there, you got to win with the guys you got. And so good to feel that vibe again of guys celebrating, man. We've had those close losses, and when you get to count how many points you put on the board, and then you sing the fight song, it's nothing better, man, in that locker room after going on the road and beating a team that was expected to beat us really bad.
Absolutely, Otis. And it was just all week. I had a feeling that Michigan State was going to pull this off. I said it. I told Stray this at the beginning of the week. I was like, I think we're going to win this.
True story. And
you story.
Said, on the show, I said, you're going to lose your credibility if you're wrong. I said.
But Jehuu says that every week, man. What are you talking about?
So I'm just going to Hey, I didn't want to put out the man like that, but hey, he did say we're going to win this week. Go ahead.
It was, definitely. And, after, the week previous, there was a dark cloud hanging over East Lansing and hanging over the Spartan program. And we talked about it on the show. Guys are going to have to step up. Guys are going to have to come in to this game and they play loose. There's no pressure, nothing to lose. And that's exactly what they did. Otis, you hit on the fact that you could feel a different type of energy. That definitely was. There was a different sense of energy on the sidelines. For once we had that when the offense was on the field, we had defensive guys standing up, cheering when the defense was on the field. Offensive guys were standing up. And both times, kickers and punters were just in the back corner where they belong.
I mean, listen, the punter was probably, he might be the MVP of this game with the weather conditions.
Man.
We'll get to the kickers in a moment. Let's break it down. Let's get back to the IHOP Game Day Stat Breakdown. Presented to you by IHOP. The 2x2x2 breakfast combo equals one delicious meal. Enjoy 2 pancakes, 2 eggs your way, and 2 pieces of bacon for only $5 only at IHOP. Hurry in and enjoy this deal for a limited time. Dine in only. Price and participation may vary. Restrictions apply. Well, guys, we're going to start with the defensive side of the ball. Defense.
Can we talk about the win first?
No, let's talk about time we get to start with the defense. Y'all always start with the offense.
We are starting with the defense, and we're going to get to the win.
Defense wins championships. Defense wins games. The win, we don't care about the win on the defense, man. That's an advantage for us, man. Like, ball's gonna come up, we gonna gotta get it, right? 50-50 balls are going our way. But one, shout out to finally having a noon kickoff. We're going to talk about that for our next show. But now we get to have some pancakes from IHOP finally. So shout out to our boy Kyle. Shout out to IHOP. I can't wait to have a 2 for 2 for 2, but in our tailgate.
Yes.
Got to go to Yeah, but, we talk about defense, right? We talk about the guys that have been let go from the team indefinitely right now until further investigation. Jay, you hit it our last show is next man up mentality. And you saw that immediately on that first drive when the defense took the field, is that you got guys in there that are fresh legs but have a sense of new energy. We talk about Deshaun Mallory playing defensive end. You got Simeon Barrow. Obviously, he's always been in that mix, but there was just a different feel to the ball. Everybody was getting hats to the football. You didn't see that many missed tackles. You saw everyone celebrating each other. If you look at that stat line on the tackles, we had 84 total team tackles. We had Amir Speed, who's your corner. Still don't know how he does it. He's always leading the team in each game on the tackles, 12 total tackles. I mean, you look at right now the clip on our goal line stands. This is where it started. This is where the tone set the tone, where Illinois is coming at us and it's like, hey, we're better than you. We're going to line up and we're going to give you 4 downs in territory where, goal stands like, show us what you're working with, right? Look at this, man. Like,
look at that.
Lockdown, baby. Lockdown, man. And that was where it started, set the tone for the offense to come out. And it's like, we are here. We're here, man, and everyone is all hats to the football. That's what wins games. When you get everybody, front line starts it. Look at the leverage we got. Everyone's just in their place. You see, look, KB talking junk, man. Like, come on, man. Don't disrespect us, knowing that we play the same type of football. We suit up. We put our shoes on the same way, and now let's do this stance where we set the tone. And we already know defense sets the tone here, man. So it was good to see this straight out the gate. And then you look at the entirety of that game, is defense kept setting the tone. They kept keeping the momentum on our side. And I never saw Illinois take that from us. When in past games, we've seen the tide turn gradually and the momentum gets over to the opposite team. And, you see guys truly setting up. And let me go one quick highlight of Ben Fansumerin. 10 tackles. Kyle Halliday, Kendall Brooks, 9 tackles. Malik Spencer, we finally saw the true freshman from Georgia. He would have been playing if he didn't have the shoulder surgery, right? And so coming out, still with the sling on his shoulder, coming out, putting speed out there on the linebacker side, and he's flying around too. And it was good to see them having fun, man, in the midst of all the turmoil we've been getting. It was good to see the defense truly play some Spartan football defense.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely was, man. Go ahead, Jehuu.
Absolutely, Otis. On that, look at here. You see.
We got to play it again. Play it again. We got to make the sound. Play it again. One more time. Well,
see where X lines up.
Look, Chase Brown he don't even see it. Pow! Oh! Brule with the recovery. Look at this, man. Everybody's celebrating.
X lines up on the line, and he fails.
The skies. Now, there was a shot, Jehuu, before you say something. There was a shot, the screenshot of Xavier and Chase Brown in this moment where you paused it, and his eyes, this is a perfect fit for a tackle. When I talk about, you got to see the ball, eat the ball, straight up, head up, punches the ball, and tackles him. Chase Brown didn't know it hit him. He's like, what was that? Go ahead, Jehuu.
Play to that 18-wheeler.
Absolutely. And the thing that I love about this, you see guys celebrating, running together, having fun. And that's the thing that's been missing the past few weeks is guys out there having fun, jumping around. We saw in the earlier highlights, a goal line stance, guys swinging their arms, waving no and having a good time, putting up the 4 for fourth down. That's what this defense needed. And you got to give for it, like as much grief that Scotty Hazelton gets. He had a great game plan for this game. He did a lot of exotic things. He did a lot of stunts up front. He did a lot of blitzing. He brought in a ton of pressure on Illinois. And I think the defense had fun with that because, Otis, you know this, anytime your number gets called for a blitz, you're licking your chops. You're excited. We had corner crash coming in, and twisting with the lineman, the D-line stepping out and the corner going in the middle there. Those are some exotic blitzes and some exotic things that Coach Hazelton dialed up. And I loved it, and I think the players loved it as well because they were having fun with it. They were bouncing around. The sideline was electric all game long.
And you know what else we saw is Jason
drills with Brandon Jordan this past week because he was in the middle, man, at the offensive line on those blitzes several times. They look really, really good and put a lot of pressure on Tommy DeVito, man.
Yeah, and shout out to the D-line coaches, man. And you see the discipline that every time you saw the shotgun, pitch option kind of riding it, our defensive ends kind of rode and stayed home to make sure like they didn't dive into that dive. There was a couple times where like you could easily bite on and say, oh man, we had it. And they stayed home just so that they didn't make sure, either Tommy DeVito pulled it. I mean, he's reading that defensive end, and you can see multiple plays throughout the game as our defensive ends did their job. And everybody was doing their job. So when everybody does their job, the whole puzzle fits perfectly, man. And it was great to see. I was excited, man. I'm cheering real loud with my parents. And, it was good to see we finally got that dub, man. So good.
I mean, what do you guys think about the personnel? I mean, you got the bigger guys playing on the defensive end. It seemed that they had more success out there. Guys like Deshaun Mallory. You got guys like Jalen Hunt, who we haven't seen much at all. This is a 6'4", 320-pounder playing on the edge. And then you have the guys on the inside, the Barrows of the world, and Derek Harmon. Obviously, big Jacob Slade was in the game for a while before he had to leave with an injury. But it was just more beef up front. And as Mel Tucker said in the press conference, he said, we weren't going to get rolled up out of there by that offensive line. So we had more size up front, which allowed those linebackers to scrape more and make the plays. And like you said, even the secondary guys would get in there, getting a hat on a hat.
Oh, absolutely. The flow of the game, man, like we always hear, they got a great line. They're the best line in the Big Ten. You look at the opposite side of that division. They're leading in that division, and we're at the bottom of the division. Well, you know what? It don't matter, right? We talked about, they are big. We've faced bigger. But I think that to your point, Jason, is that they couldn't really game plan for the guys that we had coming in to fill our holes and gaps. So they're truly recognizing in game this guy that they had no kind of film on or be able to study on. And the way we switched it up, kudos to the defensive staff, man, because they've been taking some lumps this season, right? On what are we doing? What are we running? Or what coverage is not working? Or the blitz is not working. Each level is not communicating. And now you see kind of now we're fitting the puzzles to where, all right, we truly game planned appropriately, and we have the staff to do what we know we can do. And so Spartan Nation, I mean, should be ecstatic with confidence, knowing that we went out there and played that team the best way we could, and we came out on top.
Absolutely. Makes for a nice plane ride home, too.
You know about the plane ride.
Oh, yeah, let's talk about your Kush travels, man. Your travel arrangements you had.
Mike McNamara, he took me down in a private jet down there at the Pontiac Airport. Yeah, went to the Pontiac Airport, was greeted by Mike. Guys, come take my bag, calling me Mr. Caulcrick. Jumping on the plane.
He had his best favorite shirt on, his fine garments.
Finest garments, too. Some fresh Kohans on. He's stepping on that plane, kick back.
Club, Otis, I mean, man. Hey,
landed there.
Birthday party, steakhouse. I mean, this guy was living it up out there.
Oh, my God. And dined this weekend. Big shout out to Mike McNamara, and big shout out to George Blaha, too, for, being part of that to set it up and everything. But
hey, it's a birthday. Happy birthday to Kathy McNamara.
Kathy, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's have some fun. Let's have some fun, okay?
Yeah. So wait, with defense, I'm gonna do a nice transition here. Is we wouldn't be where we would be if it wasn't for that offense. So finally, truly answering the call where complimentary football. Now, JU, this is your side. Jason, finally, y'all can go ahead and talk about the great offense that we had last Saturday.
And we're going to start off with JU's position group, and that's that running back position, man. Ran for over 100 yards in the backfield, which was great, and Jalen Berger did his thing.
Yeah, something I saw that I was really impressed with the running backs this game is they put their foot in the ground and went north. Every time they touched the ball, their big explosive plays were get it, 1, 2, 3, boom, stick a foot, go up north. Shake off tackles, lower your shoulder, and deliver the hit, as you see Berger doing that. And having a little fun while getting up. Here's another one. Go, boom, hash number sidelines. Put the ball in the outside arm, use that other arm as a weapon. See, that's the best thing right there. Hash number sideline. You fumble the ball, it's going to go out of bounds. Look at this here. Foot in the ground, stick it, go. Get low and get in there. Have fun. Let's go. That's what we're missing. You run the ball, you're going to be able to throw the ball. So when you do stuff like this, now defense starts creeping out, and then you can get your offense going. Peyton Thorne can go here, connect it deep to Jaden Reed. Routine catch, all because the run game's working.
Oh, without question. The offensive line did a phenomenal job of protecting Peyton on that one. Took a little shot there. But look at Jaden Reed taking the top off that defense. 2 defenders, not enough. Look at
that pocket, Stray. You'll be proud of it. Look at that pocket that was created for Peyton on this throw.
Clearly had their best game. That was the best game I've seen them play all year.
Absolutely. I've not seen the energy of they were picking them up, moving those feet, active.
Yeah. There's a sense of urgency out there. You've got to play this game on the verge of a rage. We talk about that all the time. You have to. You cannot be lackadaisical and blase, whatever it is, out there while you're playing on Saturday under the lights with everybody watching you, man, on national television. You better get your butt moving. And look, guys, they were down a starter. You think about Jared Horse wasn't there. They start Brandon Baldwin. This is a young guy, sophomore out of Southfield. Very big athletic player. Look at number 53 out there playing left tackle. Nice switch.
Start that man. Start that man.
Yeah. I mean, look, one thing that we didn't have on the offensive line that we typically have been having all year is the ridiculous penalties that were drive killers. Didn't have that this week. Things kept moving along, and they were able to punch the ball in when they needed to. This is a team, remember, they only had 5 touchdowns scored on them the entire year. Michigan State comes out and hits them for 3? I mean, it was a big day for Michigan State all the way around the board. Like you talk about complimentary football, the running backs got in the ball game. which helped Peyton Thorne be Peyton Thorne. You saw him really settle down, and that's a homecoming for him, if you will. Him and Jaden Reed, both Naperville, Illinois guys, not far down the road. It was where they went to high school. They knew a lot of these guys that they played against in this particular game. So it means a lot to them. And also, Daniel Barker, a guy who transferred from Illinois, who was in the mix. He kind of got out of the mix early after the interception on the first throw. Look, talk about overcoming adversity, guys. First pass of the ball game, and Jehuu, you can attest to this. Talk about the wind out there while you were down there in Illinois. Yeah, that wind was brutal. I'm 255 pounds, and I was getting blown around like a rag doll out there by the wind. So that was brutal. Yeah,
what you say?
Hey, we ain't gonna go there. Move on.
The wind was absolutely crazy out there, and I think that's what affected Peyton Thorne's first throw of the game. And this was a question I believe I reached out to ask you, Jason. That first throw of the game was an interception. Obviously, going in, you being an offense guy, Jason, your first 10 plays are scripted. Do you figure you should change the script a little bit if you're going into the win like that, or just stay on schedule?
You gotta be able to change and adapt to what the weather's giving you in that time. Because if your quarterback isn't able to throw in that, then that's exactly what happened. The first play, the ball got caught in the wind.
Yep.
And it got blown backwards. You were seeing kickoffs in that game that would take a 45-degree turn and go out of bounds. I mean, these are kicks that were going straight down the 50, down the middle of the field towards a goalpost, and they would end up, out of bounds on a free kick situation or a penalty situation, illegal procedure. So you have to be careful. But for whatever reason, didn't bother Peyton Thorne at all after that first throw. That touchdown to Jaden Reed at the end, that second the second touchdown he threw, not this one, but we're going to get to that one in a second.
Yeah, Jason, I heard you and George on the radio like, hey, he had to change his club up on his pass.
Yeah, right there. That's in the wind.
Yeah,
that is in the wind right there. Yeah, he had to change it up, just like a golfer. When you're out there and you see those golfers pick the grass up and throw it in the wind and let it blow by so they can see how strong it's blowing and what direction. Well, hey, Peyton had to club up and down for every throw, depending on which way he was going in that ball game, and he did a great job.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, one of the reasons why you can make a throw like that, or you can even attempt a throw like that, is because the momentum that the offense had. They were running the football, they were passing the ball around. So they had that confidence instilled in them that they're like, yeah, we can make any throw now. It doesn't matter wind, rain, sleet, or snow. We can make it happen. And I think that's a confidence play call by Coach Jay Johnson and a confidence throw by Peyton Thorne.
Yeah, you talk about Peyton Thorne spreading it around to 8 different receivers. He didn't just target one guy. 8 different people caught the ball. Peyton, he got a lot of running backs involved in the passing game with short screens, underneath throws, got tight ends involved. I mean, he had everybody moving, and it was a collective effort, even on the special teams side of the ball. Jehu's favorite, aside from the kicking situation and the snapping. The punter, Bryce Behringer, outstanding, David.
Listen, that punt that came, I was like, God. How did that
get 61 yards off out on the one? That's unbelievable. How hard.
Rest in peace to Ray Guy, because obviously he passed away this past week. But that man has won that award time and time out every week. Besides that one botched bad snap in Michigan, this man has been time and time again a weapon and has been forceful. And I wish we would add more complimentary football to his arsenal, his weapon, this weapon we have. But let's talk about I was reading an article. Peyton Thorne has this quote, obviously on ESPN AP. And the article is he remembers his dad telling him that there's a lot of opportunity in adversity. And I think that was the mantra that you can tell Peyton was different. It was we ain't had nothing to lose. So obviously he's saying in a pretty adverse situation and what they went through, there's not a lot of teams that went through what they had to go through. And so for them to just truly play ball, like I think Coach Tucker finally like got these guys to understand, man, like we all we have. And so regardless of what's happening, like let's play ball. And like that was a good vibe win, man. I keep saying it. Like it was just the vibes was different. Like these were the times where we wish we had this vibe earlier in the season, but we weren't getting over the top and the adversity was truly hitting us in the face and we weren't answering the call. But you finally see these guys truly gel as a squad through the adversity that we had to go through. And so I just wanted to say that.
Yeah. So we're all sitting here hee-hee-ha-ha, but we're going to act like our kicker didn't doink one off the uprights and then miss a 31-yarder, huh?
Hey, man, look, that kicker will be coming from JU, man. I don't know, look. Next time he sees him on the sideline straight, he's going to have something for him.
I mean, he almost got me one time. I was standing behind the net, and he put one through there. Almost got me.
Yeah, so if something accidentally happens to JU on the sideline, everyone, you know why.
We know
why. The kicker. Patton and Stone.
So,
Patton and Stone coming after me.
Let's talk about. I mean, there's an elephant in the room at the end of the ball game. Now, Michigan State's up by 8 points going in. It's first and goal. Favorite situation happens.
Right? I think on this play here, we got a little greedy. We wanted to hit Barker with that corner route in the back.
Oh my gosh, he's there though too.
Because I think they wanted Barker to feel good about himself. I think we got a little greedy with that throw there. But if I'm Peyton, if it's not there, just slide down. Keep the clock
get in the middle. Yeah, you're right. I mean,
he has that ability. We did ask him, guys. We did ask Peyton in the post-game show what was the call. Did he have the ability to change the call? He said no. He said that was a called pass play that they wanted to have happen, and he was thinking about the running back. And upon further review, we see Barker was wide open behind him, and it makes sense. I understand what Jay Johnson was trying to get done here for the homecoming of Daniel Barker there. But if you talk about Mel Tucker's philosophy, right, guys, is to worry about the results of the game when the clock strikes 0. Do you think in a situation like this, you need to be a little bit more cognizant of the score and the time that's left?
Listen, this play should have been done in the previous part of the game. Like, get that ball to Barker before, like, this is a decision that we need to seal the deal. And this could have changed really drastically if we didn't have the defense playing the way they were playing. Like, and they were driving too when they got the ball back. They were driving. It would have been. I was hoping we just didn't go to overtime because, like, I felt that kind of momentum start to change. It was like, man, all we had to do was make the field goal or at least get closer, and it was just mishandled.
But you know what I loved about that? After that miss, the defense came on the field fired up. And what I absolutely love that Scotty Hazelton did was he did not sit in a prevent defense. He brought fire. He had movement up front. He had stunts, twists, brought it to them there. Had them in a 4th and 10 situation. They got that, but he continued to bring fire. Usually, a lot of coaches will sit in a prevent defense and let a team chip away down the field on them, and then to get inside the red zone, then they start, to bring the pressure. But I love that by Coach Hazelton, that he did not sit back and let these guys pick him apart. He decided, hey, we're going to come after you. We're going to pin our ears back. What got us to this point is going to get us out of this. And that's exactly 100%. What happened.
He did a phenomenal job with that pressure all the way through. It got to the point where a lot of Spartans all around the country, around the world, were collectively holding their breath as Illinois marched down the field. But ultimately, 2 sacks to Tommy DeVito sealed the game for the Spartans, and they come away with the victory. Now, shifting gears a little bit here, we have a special guest, Otis.
Yes, we do. We have a special guest, and Dr. Ashley Baker. She is Chief Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Officer at Michigan State Athletics, and she has become a dear friend of mine, but also others in the department. And I would read her bio, just a tad bit, just to give her a little juice to come into the show. But she obviously holds her Bachelor of Arts in Business and Master of Education in Sport Administration. She is alum of Bowling Green State University and has a PhD in sports management and policy from the University of Georgia. So sometimes you will see her say "Go Dogs" when it's not Michigan State playing. And also, she's doing a lot of research, largely centered on Black mothers' experiences throughout the collegiate athletic department or the recruiting process, which we did mention Mama Hall. And so it's just right to bring someone on to give us some insight on, the D&I perspective inside, but also in the landscape of college athletics. As Stray, you have boys going into the recruiting, and then your wife obviously being involved, and this is her specialty. And so I wanted to bring her on to just have a dialogue of open conversation and just discuss things that we're dealing with in the future of collegiate athletics. So I want to welcome Dr. Baker. Is she on? Is she coming on? There she goes.
Hey,
hi, everybody.
Well, you missed your shoe game on game day. She be rocking some heat on her feet on game day.
We forgot to tell her. She is the full professional of judging what you have on and wearing during game days. So sometimes I got to make sure my shoes are clean.
I'm always checking.
Right.
I always got an eye out for it. Always had to be on brand.
Right.
Exactly. Well, welcome, Dr. Baker. We appreciate you taking some time. I know she's been asking, like, "Hey, when you guys gonna put me on the podcast? When you gonna put me on?"
Otis, don't do that. Don't make it like I was begging.
No, you weren't. But no, I think from a standpoint, Dr. Baker, we talked about this is a celebration of Title IX, and kind of the elements of what Michigan State has done in leading the charge in one of the best schools in the nation of what we're doing to celebrate that. And so kind of wanted to talk to you about what we did as an athletic department, and then we do have a clip obviously showing kind of the shoes of what you kind of got with the designer, but kind of talk us through like what's going on from a Title IX perspective and internally and the future.
Yeah, sure. So first, thank you all for having me, even though Otis made it like I was begging to come on the show. But I catch the show each week, and I appreciate what you all do to highlight what's happening within our football program, and even just to have this conversation beyond what happened this past weekend, which of course was a great game, great win, much needed win. But this year, 2022, was the 50th anniversary of the Title IX legislation being passed. And one of the things that has been seen throughout college athletics that I wanted to make sure we were doing here at Michigan State was to honor and celebrate the legislation, the purpose of the legislation, and its impact on women in sports since 1972. And so going into this year, this is year 2 for me with Michigan State athletics. And so my first year of just getting a lay of the land, understand the culture. I grew up here in Michigan, but obviously didn't attend Michigan State. So coming here and just learning what's important, what's special about this place. And one of the things is the storied history, of race and gender here at Michigan State. And so I wanted to make sure that as a department, we not only acknowledged and celebrated the 50 years of legislation and what it's meant for women, but that it also set the tone for what it meant for the future of women in sports. And, I obviously have a special connection and care for what happens with women in sports, because we still are in many spaces the minority, whether in administration or coaching. And the experiences of women, I think, are critical to the success of this industry. So for our athletics department, we put together a small group of women throughout the department. And I simply asked them, if Michigan State athletics was to celebrate Title IX, what should we do? And they generated a whole bunch of ideas and thoughts of, how do we celebrate the women that have come before us? That was the main piece. We need to honor the legacy of the women who not only, use legislation to their advantage and push this institution to do more for women in sports and to recognize and acknowledge and create varsity opportunities for women, but also have had some of the first women to do what we do in our industry. Dr. Sally Nogle, which I know you all know, Dr. Sally, she's an OG. She's one of the first women, if not the first woman, to ever be a head athletic trainer for a football program. And so we wanted to honor all of those who came before us, but then also celebrate who we have right now, the student athletes now. So in true Michigan State form, we wanted to do some things that were unique and really cool that maybe other institutions had done in some way, but others that we created ourselves. So you will see our logo and our signage celebrating the 50 years, showing up all over our venues and lots of our different things that we have. And every single one of our varsity sports will have a Title IX themed game. And this is where the tennis shoes come in. So again, Otis is correct. I think fashion and sport really go together. I would not consider myself like any special fashionista or anything, but I do technically match my outfits with the uniforms that the football team has on. But we want to do something cool with our shoes. And we had seen this, University of Oregon did something similar. They had a partnership with Nike and they created a custom Title IX shoe. And we thought, okay, let's not do exactly what they're doing. We need to do something that's very authentic and true to us. And custom shoes and having stuff that other people don't have is something that we do. And all of our head coaches for all of our teams have a custom Title IX shoe. We specifically identified a woman-owned business. She's an artist that does the customization. So we're supporting her business, helping her build her brand. And she designed over 20 pair of shoes for us. So all of our head coaches have them. And then our athletic director, AD Haller, has a pair as well. And she did some really cool things. I don't know if the video that you have, Coach Tucker had a really cool set. His shoes had turf on them. We have a really special reveal for Coach Izzo's. He hasn't even seen his shoes yet. There's a really cool basketball theme for his. And so throughout the year, you'll see those shoes show up. And then what we'll be doing at the end of the year is auctioning off one pair of shoes. And that one pair, the proceeds from that is going to go to a local organization, as well as our 37 Words campaign that we just recently launched over this past weekend.
Yeah, we got a video right here.
Yeah, Holly Rose.
Coach Tucker, tell me about your special shoes. I love your shoes.
Yes, we're just celebrating Title IX, the 50th anniversary. So I was asked if I would be willing to wear these shoes. Absolutely. And to celebrate that, we have a local artist. She's doing these shoes for all of our head coaches. This season, I'm the first to roll them out, so it's an honor and a privilege for me to do this.
They're wonderful. Thank you for representing women. It means something to us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Great stuff there. And we'll be, when can we pick up our This Is Sparta branded ones?
Oh yeah, size 15. Okay.
I'll see what I can do.
Yeah, tell her we would like some nice ones, man. Like, we'll even provide them and pay her, man. But yeah, those are nice. And I didn't realize that was Holly Rose's voice. I didn't realize that was her, but she's done so much for obviously women in broadcasting. And as we, Jason and Jehuu are broadcasting, we kind of all started, and I started in radio, and Jason's still doing it, and Jehuu as well. But kudos to you and the women that internally to build that initiative, because like I said, it's fresh, it's nice, it's showing some swag, and you talk about you match your shoes with the team jerseys. I think you are a fashion Nista. You're a professional. So go ahead. Anybody else?
I got a question. So I know that this is the 50th anniversary of Title IX, and we're really highlighting a lot of things that go along with that. But I'm going to ask you, what do you see, if any, things that we can do better? Like, is there something that we can do better from our standpoint to highlight women's athletics or women in general more, in your opinion? And are we doing where's the bar at? Are we doing okay? We're underperforming as a university, or do we need to get better?
Yeah, so you know what? I think Michigan State has done an incredible job of highlighting and celebrating the success of our women's teams. Even historically, they have, something that's part of our DEI strategic plan that we have in place is that we will prioritize and amplify the success of our student athletes. So having cross country and women's soccer winning Big Ten championships, there's one piece to win the championship. Like, of course, we're always going to celebrate the champions, but the way in which we then continue to celebrate them, we just hosted on campus today the NCAA selection show for women's soccer. We're hosting. We're super excited about that. So, we've done a good job. I think when we talk about resources and access to opportunities, there's still improvement to be made. And this is across the landscape of college athletics, not just a space like Michigan State. You look at media coverage, you look at access to facilities, access to financial resources, equipment, all of those things continue to be a challenge, even at the lowest level of sports. So you're talking about youth sports and young girls having opportunities to participate and get positive experiences as young people so that then they can continue to play and have opportunities and have access to playing in college. Then you talk about going on to professional sports. And when you get into that space, you're talking about pay equity and resource allocation and things like that. We've done a really great job. We have a number of women who are incredible in our senior leadership, directors throughout our department, leaders throughout our department that impact what we do on a regular basis. Us having an opportunity to sit in leadership spaces and our voices being heard and considered in the decision-making process. You know, those things, that's been improvement for Michigan State. When I first took over my role, obviously A.D. Haller wasn't the AD at that time, he was the deputy, but I worked closely with him and reported to him from day one. And we looked at the demographics of the department. We looked at the demographics of the leadership room. And we said, not only from a race and gender standpoint, but even just an experience standpoint, we needed to broaden what that space looked like because we didn't have enough perspective and voice in the room. And now, you know, we've done some incredible things to highlight the different experiences and different skill sets that we have throughout the department. And that includes a number of women in our department.
You know, I mean, it's incredible. Everybody talks about my sons and the recruiting process, but, you know, one thing that Otis, Jehuu, and myself all have in common, we are all girl dads, by the way.
Yeah.
All of us. Now, my heart's my daughter, my youngest, and these two definitely have daughters up and coming, and we can't wait to see them, you know, as they begin to mature and all that, and maybe, you know, in the field of play in some sport one way or another, because their dads are pretty good at what they did. Obviously.
Well, and I think I'll tell you, I'll add to that, not only just that you all have the experience and the perspective, but that the access to opportunities has changed, right? The way that we can advocate for women and young girls, you know, having, you know, I love hearing like girl dad. So I have 3 sisters, 4 girls. So my dad didn't have anything but girls. And so he didn't have a choice. But knowing that we're in a space and place where you all have a platform, where people like me have a platform to advocate for women and girls in sport, to say this is what we want to celebrate, this is what they deserve, this is what value they bring to the space, that becomes important too, because I think people sometimes forget that you need the allies in the room, right? So we can have a room full of women, but we need the men who also speak up for us, who speak our names in rooms that we're not in, or say, hey, I think this person has some valuable perspective to add. Why don't we ask them or involve them or include them? And so I think that's critical, not just for those who are girl dads, but also those who sit in spaces where they can advocate and speak on behalf of maybe women who aren't in the room, bringing them into those spaces.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Dr. Baker, I know you you did your research on a huge topic that recruiting in football, college football, or college athletics, but more so for Black mothers. I mean, can you kind of dive deep on statistics, analytics, on kind of what you found in that research that, you know, you see that's happening today and how it's evolved, but also how it can improve moving forward?
Sure. So technically my dissertation was a qualitative one, so I didn't do a lot of numbers, but the data is actually why I did the research that I did. I spent a number of years being a director of student athlete services, and I worked primarily with men's basketball and football. And I kept having these interactions with mothers when they came on campus, particularly for those male sports, where they were super quiet. They didn't really ask a lot of questions, but then they leave campus and they call me back, and it was Ashley back then. I wasn't Dr. Baker yet. And they're like, Ashley, I have these questions. And I kept wondering, what is it about this space that we've created where these moms aren't asking questions like while we're there, or they're asking outside of it? And so I knew, right, the lack of representation of women in football spaces. Whenever I would show up, when I was working with the men's basketball team, this is when I was at Bowling Green, the majority of my career working with them and traveling with them, I was the only woman who was ever on the road with them. And a lot of times when we were doing things as a team, if it was me, and then if the coaches' wives came. And so I recognized that lack of representation of them seeing women in those spaces, and then in particular seeing Black women in those spaces, was very rare. And so that's what actually had me dive into that research. I also have a son. He's 16 now. He's played sports for all of his life. He's played football, basketball, and baseball. And so the way that women and mothers navigate male-dominated spaces was really important to me. And so when you look across the landscape of college athletics, there's more women in leadership now, but you're still looking at an industry where, you know, we're 50 years outside of Title IX, and less than 50% of assistant coaches and a low percentage of head coaches are women. And then administrators and coaches in athletics, there's not as many women. The numbers have increased over time, so we're making progress, but them not seeing themselves reflected in these spaces continues to create some distance and some barriers to even being able to communicate with coaches, being able to communicate with administrators when they're on campus. So that's really what brought me into that space. I've navigated this world. I've always been a Black woman who has either been one of the only Black people in the room, or one of the only women, and majority of the times the only Black woman. And so I wanted to do research that gave voice to the experiences of Black women in a space that I knew, and all the mothers that I interviewed, their sons had signed letters of intent to attend Power 5 institutions. So that was important to me too, that we're talking about high level football, the mothers navigating these spaces. And they had a lot of really interesting things to say about how they were treated as women and how they were treated as mothers, and the assumptions made about them as women in spaces where it was male dominated.
Very interesting.
Some good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah, that is very interesting. And, you know, like everybody here, you know, you went on visits, you took your mama with you. The mama has like that final edge say in kind of thing. So I think it's very important that, you know, there's that connection and there's that platform that, you know, they can feel free to, you know, ask questions and, you know, for the right guidance of their kids, you know, going to that next level. Real quick, I want to just ask you a quick question before you jump off here about, you know, now race in sports. You see a lot of sports, you see football, you see it at the NFL level, the college level. The majority of people in the NFL, there's 72% of the players are Black in the NFL, but the coaches, there's not a lot of minority or Black coaches, you know, in there. Same thing with college. You know, what do you think has to happen in order to, you know, knock down that door, kick down those barriers to get more and more minority coaches, you know, the opportunity for head coaching jobs?
So there's a couple things. The first thing, and I'll quickly share, right? When you think about the people who are hiring in these positions, there has to be diversity reflected in that space. You know, when we hire in college athletics, we use search firms. And NFL does this too. NBA, lots of sport organizations do this. We're using search firms, and you know, our presidents are very involved. Our athletic directors are very involved. And so when you start to look at the leadership at all levels, it's not extremely diverse. So when you have the majority of college presidents, right? If you look at the 130 or so FBS institutions, only 16% of those college presidents are people of color. That's including and beyond Black. And so when you're looking at that, who their network of people are, and then you look at athletic directors, there's very few Black athletic directors at the college level. And so that net has to be cast wide. And so I think some of that is the representation in the leadership. The other piece is we have to be able to look beyond, you know, some of the things that we typically look at, right? We have to look at skill set. We have to look at experience. I know right now there's a lot of commentary over the Indianapolis Colts and the coach that they just hired as the interim. Like, I just saw a question of like, when was there a Black player who ever went into a role of an analyst and consultant for a team that hopped right to being a head coach? And so when you think about that, there are dynamics and ways in which Black coaches and Black athletes are measured that are very different than their white counterparts. And so some of that has to go, right? The stereotyping and the ways in which we evaluate and stereotype Black coaches and Black athletes. And we have to expand our thoughts on what their value is and how they see themselves and how we see them in leadership positions. And then the representation of the people who are hiring. Like, we simply have to see more diversity at that level, because I think when you get to that level and you have a different type of experience, you look and evaluate candidates in a different way.
Doctor, I think that was a beautiful point there. I mean, when I first saw Adam Schefter break the Jeff Saturday going to be the new head coach or the interim coach of the Colts. I thought it was a joke. I had to make sure it wasn't April 1st. I honestly did. I said, that doesn't make any sense to me, but that's a great point. Now, I have a question for you. With your research and the things that you've learned about the experience for Black women in the recruiting process, is this something that you actively work with the coaching staffs right now to help them have a better experience for those families?
Yes and no. There's some of the coaches that I work much closer with. I do work outside of Michigan State as well with working with coaches, sometimes high school coaches. Obviously, because of NCAA rules, I'm not actively helping with recruiting, but helping connect with parents who need a better understanding of the recruitment process and navigating what's happening. I've done it. I have a niece and a nephew. My nephew played college football. My niece is playing college volleyball right now. And I spend a lot of time with my sister. I'm like, ask these questions, look for these things. So I do some of that within our department and working with some of our teams. One, to also be able to have conversations with those parents, to talk to those parents about the things that we're doing at Michigan State to help to give them a broader picture of what this institution offers for their students, what our leadership and our athletic administration focuses and goals are. So I do some of that, but I do a lot of this working with high school athletes and their families outside of here.
Perfect. Yeah. So I know we have mothers that listen to the show right now. We have mothers who kids are getting recruited right now. So you just hinted, you said when your nieces and nephews going, you were saying, ask these questions. What questions would you say, if you could say like 2 or 3 questions that are must asks these mothers have to ask when they go to these universities, for any mothers that's listening with kids that are getting recruited right now?
Yeah. So the first thing, what I made my sister do and my nieces and nephews do was, what's important to you in a school, right? Is it the location? Is it the major? Is it the coaching staff? Is it the, opportunity? Is it exposure? What is it? You want a big school, small school? So the first piece that's really important is to identify what's important to you and what you want in an experience as a family, as a player. You might want the experience of the coaches, whatever it is, and use that as a guide for how you go in and ask questions. So you always want to ask questions about, the X's and O's are going to be taught, right? We're gonna know what position, we're gonna know what the offense is, the defense, right? We know all those things, but asking questions about support staff. What support staff is in place to help our student athletes as it relates to academics and education? There are some institutions where they push and guide student athletes into particular majors. Is your major there? Are you going to be able to major in it? There are institutions across this country where they, may say that doesn't fit really well with our program. And it's a sad reality, but it's a reality. Asking questions about experiences outside of participating in sport. What type of holistic experience will that student have, right? We know you're going to class. We know you're going to practice. Are you getting career development? Do you have opportunities to study abroad? Do you have opportunities to have internships, right? Because once those 4, 5, 6, however many years are done, whatever you move on to do, whether it's professional sport or not, there is a skill set that you need to have and experiences that you should have at a time when you're 18 to 22 that can really set you up positively for your future. And the exposure to other things throughout campus, exposure to things in the community are really important for holistic development of student athletes. So those are the things, right? All the things outside of sport. The sport stuff takes care of itself. Yes, you care about, who's ahead of me in the depth chart, who's, coming in maybe in my recruiting class, but all of those other things have to be questions as well when you're thinking about what that experience is going to be. We have the transfer portal now, so it's a little bit different in that, like, maybe you get somewhere and you can leave if you want, but that's still, you don't want to bounce around. You want to really be intentional about how you align your values and your priorities with what that institution has to offer.
Hey, we need a segment. We need some more time.
We need a whole show for this, because this is a lot of good stuff here. We need a whole entire hour just to block this off here and have people even fire questions in.
Absolutely. But you said something.
Anytime. I got on once. Maybe I can get on again.
Awesome. Yeah, well, you said it. You said an important thought, and I know we'll let you go and appreciate you spending time with us. But it's I think we're forgetting you have to make the decision about the institution. Can I be here for 4 years? If a coach leaves or staff leaves, am I in love with the city? Am I in love with the university and what it's going to provide me? And I think that, all the transfer portal and then the NIL stuff is kind of overshadowing. Like, you still have to make a business decision on, like, can I spend my future here for 4 to 5 to 6 years? And you made a good point there of, like, those are questions that need to be asked that's outside of the football, because you're here on campus. They know you can ball. They know what you fit into their system. And so great point, Dr. Baker. We appreciate you. I appreciate you, obviously. And so we're going to have to figure out ways to do a little segment thing where we got once a month, we got Dr. Baker segment coming up.
Hey, listen, I'm with it. Just a little special feature once a month.
Sounds good. Yeah, definitely.
Well,
thank you so much for jumping on.
Yes, thank you all for having me.
Appreciate you.
All right.
Yeah, that was very, very good, man. And we can talk to her, for hours. I think it gets real deep, man, when you talk about making that college decision. And she talked a little bit about, does this fit with your schedule, your football or basketball, whatever sport you play? Does the extracurricular things that you want to do, be it your major or career development things, internships, does that really fit? How many stories have you heard across the country with your friends? Oh, they told me I could do this major, and as soon as I signed, they said, hey. That's a part of the deal, right? I think that's something.
I was about to say, Jay, what did John L. tell us, man? I don't want to put him on Front Street, but he sure enough recruited us and told us a whole bunch of stuff. And then when you get into the system, and he goes, Otis? You like that voice? Otis? It's education first, football second.
That's the thing that he would do. He's like, you're a student first and an athlete second.
And he'd be like, am I dyslexic? Am I slow? Golly, good Lord. But no, that was a good one, man. That was a good one.
That's the truth of it. No, that's a very great segment. We got to figure something out to have Dr. Baker on more often. And, I think that will put a bow on this show. The recap for the Illinois game, big win for the Spartans. And hopefully that can carry over as we get ready to talk about Rutgers next week. Don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms. Click the link in our bio to follow your favorite social platform, whatever it is, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Hey, we got TikTok and Twitter. All those things to keep up with This is Sparta. And don't forget to subscribe when you get to that link tree. Subscribe to the YouTube. These are the ways that you can get the free tickets and the exposure that you want. That inside look at Michigan State football, basketball, and other sports, the Olympic sports. You get those by subscribing to This is Sparta on the socials. Be sure to do that. We have some special ticket giveaways coming up in the next few hours. We'll stay tuned for that. And for my co-hosts, Otis Wiley and Jehuu Caulcrick, I'm Jason Strayhorn. This is Sparta. Have a good night. God bless, and go green.
Go white.